Marvel Studios is one of, or if not the greatest film studio in the industry right now. It has released multiple highly successful shows and movies, and the Infinity War saga being its most watched, admired, and heartbreaking projects till now. It left all of us wondering what happens next in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, who is going to be the next supervillain, and will we ever see the merging of the Marvel multiverse? Hello, and welcome back to Movie King, where we go in depth about the movies and the lore behind them. We will be talking about Marvel's next supervillain and how the agents of the S.H.I.E.L.D. universe crash into the MCU. So the Avengers Endgame did just leave many broken hearts, but also a lot of unanswered questions. And we are here to answer all your questions and hopefully help you understand what Marvel's Phase 4 is about and how the events of the Endgame set the stage for the arrival of a new supervillain. Before we jump into all the juicy stuff, here's a quick recap of what happened in Marvel's Infinity Saga. Since the release of the first MCU movie back in 2008, Iron Man, Marvel has slowly set the stage for the arrival of the widely awaited and anticipated supervillain Thanos. In this timeline, the Avengers go through a lot, having fought off the alien invasion led by Loki in the Age of Ultron. The Avengers face the threat of Ultron destroying the entire planet.
This is the best I can do.
This movie eventually added new characters like Scarlet Witch and Vision into the ranks of the Avengers. And then, in the events of Civil War, we get to see the fallout of the Avengers. For some fans, the breakup of Tony and Cap hurt more than their breakup. And in Infinity War, the Avengers divided. We got to witness Thanos make his move for the Infinity Stones and collect them one by one. Then he makes his way to Earth to take the Mind Stone after defeating Doctor Strange and Iron Man and obtaining the Time Stone. He takes the Mind Stone, killing Vision in the process, and Infinity War ends with Thanos erasing half the universe and with Avengers defeated and shattered. A year later, Marvel's released Endgame, the grand finale of the Infinity Saga, where the movie picks up the story 5 years after the snap. The film begins by showing the Avengers' individual lives and what each Avenger is going through and how they are dealing with the loss of their loved one. And this is when the Ant-Man makes his entry and comes back out of the quantum realm to find out that 5 years have passed. He then meets up with the Avengers to figure out a way to reset everything that happened through time travel. Cap and the Avenger eventually had a hard time convincing Tony, but you all know what happens. Tony swoops in to fix the time travel problem and rejoins the Avengers to save the day. But the movie sadly ends with a huge hole left in the MCU, with the death of the Iron Man and the Black Widow. And with that ending, we were also left with a lingering question of who the new Marvel villain will be. And another question is about whether Marvel will be able to create a villain as good as Thanos. Because before Thanos, Marvel had quite a reputation for not creating quality villains. Well, Killmonger and Loki being an exception, of course. There is a bit of doubt whether Marvel will be able to pull off another big-time villain like Thanos. And if they want to surpass Thanos, they will need a more prominent and better villain. And this is where Kang makes his entry. We were so caught up in the Infinity War saga events that we didn't know the slow build-up of Kang's arrival. Marvel is great at storytelling, and they were already setting the stage for Kang's arrival since the beginning of the Endgame. Marvel recently confirmed the arrival of new heroes in the MCU and the arrival of Kang, the Conqueror. Marvel also released a new book called The Wakanda Files, presented as a compilation of Shuri's research on all the tech in the MCU, from weapons to AI to the quantum realm. The book also contains hidden messages that can be revealed by a UV light from a Kimoyo bead, and this book overturns the rules of time travel in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. One of the questions that this book makes us wonder is how much did Tony Stark know exactly before going into the time heist? I mean, it was pretty evident that Tony knew more than he let on because he pre-recorded a message suggesting that he knew what to expect in the future where they defeated Thanos.
I love you 3000.
He might have known that the one future where they win would require his self-sacrifice, which is why he knew exactly what to do when Doctor Strange pointed his trembling finger at Stark in the middle of the final battle against Thanos. We also know that Tony secretly designed the gauntlet to be compatible with his nanotech so that he would be able to snatch the Infinity Stones from Thanos without his knowledge, and even if Thanos snapped his fingers, we know that the gauntlet would have never worked because the gauntlet had a one-time fuse that Hulk already used. With all these failed safes in place, we're almost dead sure that Tony knew what to do and that something else was coming. Now we say Tony knew about Kang because of two reasons. One, because Tony might have had the time for an adventure of his own after the time heist, and two, because of a line he delivers to Cap before picking him up after Thanos attacks the Avengers compound.
You mess with time, it tends to mess back. You'll see.
Before Marvel announced that Kang is coming to the MCU, we thought he was referring to Thanos. Now that we know about the new villain, there is a highly possible theory roaming around the internet that Tony was referring to Kang. Remember Cap stealing 4 vials of Pym particles during the time heist back in 1970? And Cap and Tony only needed 2 to get back to the present, leaving 2 vials for Tony to travel through time and discover Kang's existence and what new threat the Avengers had unleashed in their attempt to save their current timeline. Now, before you say that Cap needed those extra 2 vials to return the Infinity Stones to their origins, let me just tell you that there were 6 Infinity Stones from 4 different points in time. So those 2 vials wouldn't have been enough for the whole trip. Maybe Dr. Hank Pym, who was present at Tony's funeral, supplied them with more Pym juice. So, between the time after Natasha's death and the creation of the Infinity Gauntlet, fans theorized that Tony must have learned about Kang's existence. So this is probably how the stage was set for the appearance of Kang. Now Kang is ruthless, and if Marvel wants to bring Kang into the MCU, they would need more muscle power to bring Kang down. Marvel has also said that Phase 4 will include many new heroes that could aid in the defeat of Kang. We think that the new Avengers can be what Marvel is trying to make, because Marvel has already introduced one character from the new Avengers comics, Cassie Lang, known as Thatcher as in the comics, and the currently running WandaVision can introduce Wiccan. Marvel could be trying to form the new Avengers team as a bid to defeat Kang, but in the comics, the new Avengers is led by the younger Kang, who comes to find out what he becomes in the future and joins the Avengers to defeat his older self. It might be interesting how Marvel would introduce Iron Lad. Now, how does all this tie in with S.H.I.E.L.D? You might wonder. Well, remember the death of Agent Coulson in the first Avengers movie? From the beginning, Marvel fans wondered how much the show and the MCU connected. In the show, Agent Phil survives the Battle of New York, and the show in the earlier series followed the MCU timeline. The show always made references to the movies, but the films never made references to the show. In the movies, time stream is split when the Infinity Stones are taken out of place. But in the show, we are taught that too many of these changes can create alternate timelines. In the final episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D, the character Fitz comes out the quantum realm and explains that the quantum realm can basically allow someone to travel to different timelines. So we know that all Marvel shows and movies are part of the same universe but different timelines. And we know that S.H.I.E.L.D eventually turns into S.W.O.R.D, that a new show is underway, and the logo of the sword has been found on the set of WandaVision. With all these little tie-ins with the show and the MCU, we think that the arrival of the S.H.I.E.L.D agents is inevitable. We might also finally get to see the Fantastic Four make their appearance in the MCU to join the Avengers to defeat Kang. But if Marvel is going to defeat Kang, they're going to have to do it a little differently. I mean, sure, another mass Avengers assembly with the other timelines included would be fantastic, but it would be like rewriting the endgame all over again. Wouldn't it be cool to let Kang the Conqueror win and have the Avengers and the new characters lead an underground resistance against Kang? Comment down below and let us know what you think would happen with Kang's arrival. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure to drop a like and hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on our latest videos.